Hey everybody, this is Linux shell scripting. We'll be looking into a couple of problems and a couple of Linux commands. So I have my empty terminal here, and the first thing we'll be looking into is called shebang. Now you might have seen these when you're writing shell scripts. So I'm going to let me say hello world.sh, and you might have seen this thing, right? Pound exclamation slash bin slash bash. This is commonly called shebang. And what this means is when you write a shell script and when you want to execute this as as a executable, right? You could say dot slash hello world dot sh. When you do this, which shell do you want to use to run this shell script with, right? Is it sh, right? Or is it bash? Or is it, if you're on a Mac, if is it zsh? There are a lot of very common shells. So the shebang tells you which shell do I want to use to execute this shell script. Now let's say we do this. Let's say we could just play hello world. That's all our shell script does. How do I execute this, right? There are mainly two ways. I could either say the name of the shell and say bash do this, right? It just prints out hello world. Or I could give this executable permission. So I could say chmod plus x, or I could use the number syntax. We'll just say plus x, which adds the executable permission and say hello world.sh. And now I can just do dot slash hello world.sh just like we would execute a binary. So I could do this. It works the same way. Now, let's look at how do we print something to the terminal, right? Using a shell script or using just the command line. I could use the echo function and say hello world. There are a lot of variations to these. We'll be looking into the variations in the coming videos. So I could say echo hello world and that just prints, or I could use the printf function like we have in C. I could use hello world and it works the same way. Or I could just say backslash n, that just prints out. Now, how do I set a value in shell script, right? Let's say we've got this hello world. How about I say my my variable equals hello world. And how do I, now this is how you set a variable. How do I print these? I can use echo and say my var and say dot slash hello world. Oops, command not found. Let's see. Okay, we could do this, right? And say dot. So what's the problem here? Let's just try and execute that. It says world. Okay, so we need to kind of put in the braces in here, not codes. So if I do this and say dot slash hello world, it works, right? What else? So oftentimes we want to set environment variables to our current shell. So for example, I want to, let's say my app runs on port 9292. How do I do that? I can use the export command and say, let's say export app port equals 9292. And so when let's say I've got a Python script, and when I try and fetch that app port using, let's just try the Python script, and it's vim code.py, I can say import OS. I'll say os.environ.get. If I do this, I can actually get that variable, right? There's app port, and the value of 9292 will be read. Cool. So when we log into servers, right, we either we either have some sort of shell, right? How do we know which shell we're using? I can actually echo that and see, okay, the shell I'm using now is bin slash bash. Maybe if you're on a different shell, for example sh, and if I do this echo shell, okay, if you're a Mac, that would have showed ZSH. I'm on Linux, I've got bin slash bash. Cool. Now, say you want to display the processes running on your system, right? And you can actually use the ps command. And there are a lot of flags you can use. For example, ps minus f shows all the columns. I can use ps aux to kind of display all the processes running on my system. And a really cool similar command is top, which shows you the top running process on your system. Now there are a lot of flags with so you can do man ps. Let's see, man ps, there you go. So you can read to the man pages and get the, you can see that there are a lot of flags you can this with. And for example, one of the very common ps commands is ps minus efj, for example grep, and you can do chrome, and it shows you the process id chrome is running in, and you can maybe, okay, this is the process id you want to use if you want to kill chrome, right? And let's go. So say you want to find the location of an executable, right? So you can say, for example, I want to know where is the python executable on my system. I could use where python 3 or no, where python, I'm sorry, the command is which python. So we'll say which python 3 and tells me, okay, this is where the python 3 is located on my system. Now you could try a lot of other files, for example, which ls, right? Which, let's say cd, oh, which, let's find, let's say node. There you go. I've got node version 20 on my system. This is, you can find this is how you can find the location of the executables. Now, say you want to find the file type, right? So I've got this, I'm gonna say file code.py. It shows me it's a text file, but what if we had a C file, right? So for example, let's say hello.c. Let's just write very common stdio.h, stdio, and say int main, and let's say printf hello world, and return 0. And let's just compile that with gcc hello world hello.c stdio.h, right? And gcc hello.c, and I've got this a.out file. So if I execute that, that shows me that. If I say file a.out, it shows me that's elf. That's like it's an executable, right? And that is how you can kind of figure out what's the file type. How about finding the name of the host name, like finding the host name of the system? You can go ahead and say host name, and it kind of returns you the host name. Like it's very straightforward. Or you could use the minus uname minus a command, kind of figure that out. What else? Let's see. Cool. So how about printing the CPU info, right? So you can actually use the cat command to kind of print stuff to the terminal, and you can use the proc slash CPU info to print stuff to the terminal, and to print RAM details like memory details, you can just go and say proc slash mem info, and shows you the memory details, what's the total memory, what's the available memory, etc., etc.